Hi and welcome to CG Jam. In this new tutorial we are looking at Blender's shadow capture feature that has been implemented in version 2.79, and I know a number of other video channels have looked at this already, but they generally just tend to show you how to turn it on and not how to set it up and make it work properly. Of course, I've noticed a couple of issues with the shadow capture, namely that you can't get reflections, or that the shadows themselves can't be adjusted in the scene once they're composited in. And so this video is about addressing those issues and getting to have some quality shadows in our renders. So let's jump into our scene and have a look at how we can deal with these problems. So in this file I have my project, which is an orb which I would like to composite into this street scene here. In this window I have a HDR background from HDR Haven, and that's for the reflections and a bit of illumination. I also have this sphere which has just a simple glossy material. If I show you that here, you can see it's just a basic glossy shader with a very small amount of roughness, which will blur out the reflections a bit and make it not so obvious that it's completely the wrong scene. Now, all I want to do next is composite this orb onto the image in the UV image editor, and to do that I have set up two layers, one for the orb and one for the shadow catcher. So now we just have to add in the shadow catcher itself, which is basically it's just a plane which is aligned to our scene. So if I turn that on, I already have it, and as you can see it just fits into the scene. We're not using this side of the image, that's just for reflections like I said earlier. We're going to be using this one in our composite, and the plane is aligned. And if we just go over to edit mode, you can see I've subdivided it a number of times in order to let the projection fit nicely on the thing. So now that that's all in place, we can go back and just take a look at the issue. Here is our orb again, and you can see we are picking up the reflections from around. If I zoom in a bit, you can see the roads, the trees and everything, the sky. And the problem is when we bring in our plane, you can see that we are getting a reflection of the plane itself, which you would pretty much expect. As the plane is now part of the scene itself, you would obviously get the reflection of the plane. So now let's go over and turn on our shadow catcher. Just come over to the object info and turn it on under the cycle setting. And there we go, and now you can see we have the shadow, but we still have the reflection of the plane inside the actual reflections on the orb, and this is the issue we need to fix. So first thing we need to do is go to our plane, switch it into edit mode, and now if we make sure that we have the correct image in our UV image editor, and then we can go into our 3D window, press U, and then we choose project from view, and there we go. Now we have the plane projected into our scene, and it should fit exactly as if it was looking through the camera. So now we need to take this image and apply it to our reflection. So we just open a new material, with the diffuse selected. We need to add a texture, and I'm going to press Ctrl T to do this. Because I have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, but you just need these three nodes. Make sure the UVs are connected, and under the texture just go in and select the image that you're using for the background, and immediately once that's done you'll see that the reflections are now being projected onto your sphere, which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to happen. So now let's take a look at the compositing of this. we will head over into our compositing window and start having a look at the nodes. If I just find them, there they are. Now, it's a really basic setup. We have our render layers, we have the shadow layer and the orb layer, and they're connected via an alpha over. Then we have the background layer, and that again is connected by an alpha over, and that is connected then into the final output node. Really very simple and nothing special. But the next thing we need to remember is to make sure the film transparency is enabled, so that now in our viewer window, in our rendered view, we can see the background and the shadow layers through the camera. So let's see what that looks like when we start rendering it. Okay, so now that that's all rendered out nicely, we can take a look at our screen. If we go to full screen with Control and up arrow, now we can take a look. We can see our reflections are nicely in the ball, but the trouble is that these shadows don't match the ones in the actual photo. If you take a look, the light in the scene is really bright and the shadows are really dark, and they are really sharp, and yet the shadows that we have from our sphere are thin and wispy and not very nice at all. And so this is the issue we're going to address in this next section. So we can simply head over into our node editor once more, and we can take a look at the few nodes that we need to correct this issue. So first let's switch into full screen by pressing Ctrl and the up arrow. There we go. Now, in order to do this, we're going to have to make use of the alpha channel and to have to manipulate the alpha channel a little bit. So let's press Shift A and add filter color ramp. Shift A, not Control A. Filter color ramp. There we go. And then we'll just connect the alpha to the factor, and then next we need to combine the alpha channel with the image of the shadow so that we can then manipulate the alpha channel and thus manipulate the shadow itself. And to do that, we're going to use a converter, set alpha, and then we're going to drop the set alpha onto the image path, and then we're going to connect the image from the alpha channel onto the alpha value of the set alpha node. It's a bit weird because you'd think that the alpha value would fit the alpha channel, but as you can see it has the wrong effect. So we need the actual image output to act as the factor in the alpha channel. Okay, so there you go. So now we have the channel, and if we move the white marker and make that stronger, you can see that it starts to affect the shadow, and the more we move it in, the stronger the shadow gets. And if we move that right down, you can see we get ridiculous shadows. So let's put it at a more normal level by moving the white back up there, and then if we move the black, we can decrease all the shadows around the edge and increase the sharpness towards the actual edge of the shadow itself. So there we go, you can see we are starting to make progress. Let's drop the colour ramp down, and now we can focus it a bit further. If we zoom in a bit, you can see this edge around the shadow, which is not useful, and it makes the whole thing look a bit of a mess, makes it completely obvious that we have a CG image in there. So we need to fix that, and to do this we are going to use the filter dilate erode node and we'll just drop that in behind the colour ramp like so, and then if we click the distance, that should clear the issue. There we go, completely fixed. So now that the sphere is got its shadows matching, we can go in and I think we can soften them up a little bit, and to do that we'll just use a blur node. So again, Shift A, filter, and then we'll choose the blur which is near the top, and then we want to change it from Gaussian to fast Gaussian, and I don't know what the difference is really, but it seems to be the one that we use. I'm going to move it up 1 pixel at a time until I'm happy with it, and we don't need too much, it only needs to be a subtle blurring, and 2 pixels seems to be about right. So I'm going to leave it at that, because that looks about right. And now the next thing you'll notice is the shadow is completely black, which is completely unnatural. It looks like it's hovering over a hole. So we need to adjust some settings here in the alpha over node, and we need to make a very subtle change and bring it down just a slight amount, because if you bring it down to even the wrong fraction, you'll see that it becomes incredibly transparent. So we need to adjust this with just the smallest fraction of the factor, and I'm going to set it to 0.99, which will just give us that see-through of the road without darkening the shadows, because that should match now better with the other shadows in the road. You can see the yellow lines through it. So now that our shadows are looking a lot more realistic, we can go in and we can import our project file. And on my first layer I happen to have the Blender Foundation's quadbot from the Tears of Steel movie, so let's bring that up. And then we can hit render and see what this looks like. And I'll just let that render out for a few minutes, and I'll pause the video and see you in a second. Okay, so there we go. All we need to do now is just put on the the correct nodes. Just go back to the node editor, and with our quadbot render layer, if we just connect that up, if I can grab hold of it, there we go. And we'll just swap those nodes around, connect the correct render layer into the scene, and there we go. We have a nice sharp image of our shadows. What am I doing? What am I doing? Just have those connected in Muppet. And there we go. There's our quadbot, nice and happy inside the render, and it's looking fine. I still think we could drop the blur down a little bit, but overall looks good. We're in the scene where we've got the nice sharp dark shadows, and that's it. That's all we needed. So yeah, that's all there is to it, and I hope you got something out of this video, and you can start using shadows properly in your renders and your 3D scenes. Yeah, so like and subscribe to this channel for more videos. We now release videos every Friday for our tutorial channel, and blog posts on a Monday usually. So if you want to keep up to date with all the latest goings on within our small network, you can head over to our website and hit that little red subscribe button in the corner. will notify you every time we release a new post. And check out the blog while you're there, because we do some fun, interesting things such as video clips, animations, and also we give reviews on add-ons and other softwares relevant to VFX. So that's all good. But that's it for today. We are going to see you again next week with a new video. I think it will be on tracking this time. So look forward to that, and I will see you then. Take care now, and goodbye.